Good evening, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. As many of you know, Harlem Network News is a new media platform, and we started at the onset of COVID, and we are still here. So it's very critical. It's very critical to us that Harlem is informed, especially as we have a primary election coming up tomorrow. The voting starts, I believe, at 6 a.m. and ends at 9 p.m. And that is for the State Assembly District 70, which is Central Harlem. It's a powerful race. As many of you know, yesterday at about 7:30, we had our debate forum part 1, which was a very robust and controlled situation. We had candidate Craig Schley as well as candidate Maria Ordonez. And today we have our part 2. We had hoped to be able to get everybody together at one time, just making sure that Harlem is informed, engaged, and call to action. Today, our invited guests were our candidates, Jordan Wright, as well as Shana Harmongoff. And everyone was invited and really ain't too proud to beg and plead. We wanted everybody to be here. But Shana was able to be here. Jordan was not able to be here, so we're going to go with Shana. And we're still going to keep our debate format. We had certain questions that were asked yesterday, and those same questions will be asked today with the same time constraints. So I want to, without further ado, introduce our candidate, Shana Harmongoff. And Shana, you will start with a little bit of information about yourself, about your background, who you are and whose you are and why you're running. And you have 2 minutes. You're on the clock, Shana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry. And for your leadership and for keeping Harlem informed of what is going on and as far as the candidates and what we stand for. So again, thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Facebook and everyone who's listening. I am Shana Harmongoff, and I am a candidate for New York State Assembly, District 70, right here in Harlem. My biggest platform that I focus on is mental health, housing the homeless, protecting seniors, and small businesses. And how I came up with that platform is because those are some of the areas that are not only near and dear to my heart, but just by working in state government has shown me that these are the top issues that Harlem is facing today. But a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Harlem by 2 parents who were both civically engaged in the Harlem community. And they had me and my siblings both volunteering at nursing homes and senior centers. And I never really appreciated going, Terry. But each week that I went to these nursing homes, I started to fall in love with the seniors because they loved seeing me, because their families would leave them in the nursing homes and wouldn't check on them. So I remember one week going, and a senior citizen said to me, she said, "Little girl, I hope you do more listening than you do talking." And when I started to listen to the seniors, I got to hear their needs. And I wanted to do more than just listen to them. I wanted to be their advocate. So that is what propelled me, Terry, to go to law school, where I received my Juris Master degree, as well as my Juris Doctor degree. And after I finished law school, I started working in government for a previous state senator of Harlem. And he asked me what I'm most passionate about. And I said mental health and seniors. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you, Shana Harmongoff. And just for edification, is this the first time that you've run for office? And I'll just add a little bit because we have a little bit more time. But what has really motivated you? The senior, and the background and how you grew up, but what has motivated you to run for office before and then to step in the deep water and run for office again? Because that's a big bite.
Right, because this is my third time running. 2 years ago, I ran for state senate, and I knew that I wanted, well, first of all, working in state government and being the senator's district office director and director of community affairs. And basically, what that simply means is I was just his face. And that just means I was out in the community representing him when he wasn't able to be at these places. Because with state legislators, you're in Albany from January through June, pretty much Monday through Thursday. So you have to basically have someone representing you in the district while you're in Albany. So I represented the senator and got to hear the needs of the seniors, the single mothers who said, Shana, we're working, but we just are struggling trying to make ends meet. We don't have housing. And so just being out in the community is what made me say, you know what? I want to not only advocate on a governmental front, I want to actually advocate as a legislator. And I have the background and the experience. And I'm actually the only candidate who's running who has worked in state government for a previous state senator, and who also has, I'm the only candidate who has a master's in legal studies and a Juris Doctor degree. So those are some of the advantages I have while I'm running that others don't have. And so, yeah, I'm excited to, I'm claiming a win. I believe I'm going to win. And I'm excited to get to work.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. This is Terri Wisdom. I'm Harlem Network News, and we are here. This is part 2 of our debate forum for the state assembly candidate. And we did have 2 invited candidates today in the person of Jordan Wright, who is one of the candidates, and Shana Harmongoff. Shana Harmongoff is the candidate that was able to come. But this is Harlem Network News, and we are about our business of informing the people. So we are moving forward in our debate style with one candidate. So we are very proud that of the 4 candidates that are actually on the ballot and running, we have been able to bring 3 of those candidates to you, the people. You matter and we matter. So I'm going to get right down to the questions, Shana. And you have 2 minutes for each question. Though it's only you got 2 minutes for each question. We're going to keep to our format. We have a battery of questions from our voters that they sent in. And there is a group that is formed, Black voters in the 70th district. And one of their very first and primary question, and I want to phrase this so that it will be effectively answered. They are talking about representation and advocacy. And they are asking you, the candidate, how will you ensure that the voices and concerns of the Black community, meaning Old Harlem, the Black community that has been here in the district in particular, who are those who have in some ways lost trust in Black faces and high places, and want to assure that they're adequately represented. Because at this point in time, they see us with the Black mayor, chancellors, all kinds of representatives, but they're feeling that they are still being disenfranchised and disrespected and not really getting a part of the pie. And that is coming from our organization, Black Voters in the 70th District. How do you address that question? You have 2 minutes, Shana. Thank you.
Well, I think one, I am a Black woman. And I'm a young Black woman. Even though I'm in my 40s, I'm still young. So I think that me being a woman, 1, a Black woman, 2, and a young Black woman, 3, helps to make sure that representation is, at the forefront. Especially in government, we mostly see a lot of male dominated or male or men running these political positions, but we need more women. So I've been hearing when out in the community that we need more women. And when I'm at the polls and people are voting, they're like, we love seeing women, actually running and standing up for women. So I think representation does matter, and they're seeing it through me because I'm a woman and a Black woman. And so I'm going to be pushing for younger people to voice their concerns and run for public office. And because oftentimes we see, what I've been seeing is a lot of young people not encouraged or not motivated to want to run for public office because they don't see anybody in office that looks like them. So I believe once I get in office, that people, Black people and younger Black people, will be motivated to want to run for office, let their friends know about it, and become more civically engaged. And I actually think just me staying out in the community and people seeing me encourages people to want to stay involved.
Okay, well, thank you. And I believe that the other part of the question, you have a few minutes left in your time slot, is really we the community, and I will speak for Harlem Network News, are glad to see people that look like us in position. As a woman, as a journalist, as a media person, I certainly am glad to see another woman. But the real question that I believe that this organization, Black Voters in the 70th District, is asking is, beyond having candidates that look like us, what and how can these candidates get in there, roll up their sleeves, and really knock the ball out the park for the needs of the people? That, I believe, is the essence of that question. So if you have a few more minutes.
I think that's just
address that.
transparency. I think that's just transparency and staying out in the community and listening to the needs of the voters. So I think a lot of times you see a lot of elected officials when the cameras are on, but you never really see them holding a lot of town halls and getting to know the issues of the community. So I think in order for the community to really feel heard, the elected officials need to hold more town halls and be transparent. And that's how you're going to get more things done for your community. So that's how I'm going to answer that question, Terry.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, because we know that there are a lot of issues, a lot of concerns, and the questions are going to go down and answer those. And the question is how the public officials can actually make that change. Okay, so next question from this same group of voters is economic empowerment. What specific economic master plans do you have to support the underserved population and Native Harlem Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs in the district, and to improve economic opportunities for all residents? Thank you.
So one of the things that I really champion as part of my platform is supporting small businesses. And I have found that a lot of minority and women-owned businesses are not MWBE certified. So I've taken it upon myself to basically go to different businesses in Harlem and see who is an MWBE owner and see if they're MWBE certified. And if not, help them become MWBE certified so they can get governmental state and city contracts. So that's one of the ways. Also for our young people with economic development and just making sure that they have ownership and entrepreneurship. A lot of our young people in the community today are very talented, have their own entrepreneurial skills, and I really would like to give some money to our young people to start their own businesses, and then have give funding to other businesses to mentor young people so that way when they get of age to start their own business, they have learned at a younger age the value of work work ethic, and entrepreneurship. So those are some of the ways that we can kind of create economic development in our community with the young people, with our small businesses. And so that's a start.
Okay, thank you for that. And of course, money, financial infusion, and which segues to our next question, and education are critical for change in our community. And from a Harlem Network News standpoint, really having our fair share and some, because that's what's needed to turn the tide. Okay, the next question is a very critical question here in Harlem, Central Harlem, which District 70 represents, and that is, what measures will you take to improve the quality of education in our schools, particularly in underserved neighborhoods, and to ensure equitable access to educational resources in this separate but unequal system? And that's directly speaking to what is going on in District 70. School
Okay.
district, primarily 5, 4, pretty much separate but equal. There was legislation 70 years ago, and it's probably more separate and unequal today than it was then. So if
Right.
you could just speak to that. Thank you.
Well, I will say from a standpoint of a lot of our public schools need funding, and they're having to compete with charter schools in the sense that I'm seeing a lot of public schools and charter schools are co-located in one building. So public schools are enrollment has been down because they've been competing with charter schools. So it's just basically getting more funding to public schools, resources to teachers, because often my campaign manager, she's a former teacher. And
Okay.
so a lot of the things that they, as parents, because she's a parent, and a lot of things as a teacher that they mention is that they don't get the necessary resources as their the charter schools that might be co-located in their building. So it's just basically day one when I get in office is pushing for more funding for education. I know when I was growing up, we had after school programs, and we don't have that anymore. So pushing for more funding for after school programs. Also, every child, when they get of age, they're not going to go to college. So we need to bring more funding back to trades and also to home ec and things that I used to have growing up so that our, kids can not want to be on the streets because gun violence, I know we're transitioning. That's at an all-time high in gangs related issues. So the more funding that we put into educational resources, the more our kids can better themselves and be productive in society and not go astray.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that, Shana Harmongoff, candidate for state assembly. Okay. Moving right along, the other question that this group, which is the Black voters for District 70, had, and then I'm going to infuse some other questions. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and this is our debate forum, part 2. I want to reiterate that all candidates were invited. We, for this segment, part 2, invited Jordan Wright, Shana Harmongoff. Jordan was unable to make it, so we are still continuing with the same debate format. You have 2 minutes, Shana Harmongoff. And this question is housing and gentrification. How will you address, and I reiterate you, being the state assembly person, how will you address the issues of affordable housing and gentrification, which disproportionately affect Black residents in our district who cannot afford to live in Harlem?
Well, I think that there has to be a lot of legislation in place and stronger laws. I really would like for the Good Cause Eviction Act to be passed so that, these landlords aren't um, evicting our tenants out without proper, cause. So stronger laws in place, working with my colleagues in government to make sure we truly create affordable housing, because right now we say affordable housing, but it's not really affordable. Our seniors who've been living in housing for a number of years are actually being pushed out of their homes. A lot of them might make a little over the threshold as they retire, but they don't qualify for the subsidies of like SCREE and DREE if they're disabled. So I would basically push for more stronger laws. And as far as trying to make housing more affordable, I think everyone might be looking at it from either a tenant side or either from a developer side, but nobody's really looking at it from the standpoint of both situations. And so I truly believe in order for there to be more affordable housing, you just need to create more housing. But then too, we have to give some sort of incentives to the developers, so that tax incentive to the developers, so that it will motivate them to create more affordable housing. That way it's a win-win for tenants and the developers.
Okay, thank you for that, because the addendum to that question is folks are very disillusioned and feel their voices are really not being heard. I mean, we just had the rent board meet, and I know that was here in New York City, and they passed to up the rents for the 1 year lease, 2 year lease, for the rent stabilized, and there was a lot of protesting, and folks were very disillusioned and felt that they weren't heard. We're also here in a city where they're saying that the mean average rent is like $5,000 a month for a studio. So where are we headed, and how can a legislator or an assembly person get in there with boxing gloves and knock these things down? I mean,
Right.
that, because people are feeling like, okay, we have raised our voices, we have said what it is. It's obvious as to what is going on with people. Salaries are not raising at those increments. So what do you say to that? That's the addendum to the question.
Well, first we gotta hold legislators accountable. So right now I'm not in office. So the legislators that are in office now, we have to hold them accountable. When I get in office, I will hold my colleagues in government. I will hold my co- I will
Okay.
hold my colleagues in government.
Mhm.
I will hold our colleagues in government accountable, um, so that way our people in our community can get truly affordable housing. So I would just basically say stay on our legislators and I would want my community to stay on me. And I would want to make sure I do the best for my community to make sure that housing truly stays affordable for my community.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, this is a quick question, and I appreciate this question. It really kind of segues over small business, economic empowerment, and the housing. We had some young people, and I asked them the questions. What are the things and the change that you would like to see in Harlem? What are some of the extreme issues? And the main thing that they said was the trash on the streets and the visibility. That's what the young people, and these are people in their teens, said they want to see. So how would you address that? This is, question from our young people.
Right. So I would basically work with the Department of Sanitation to make sure that trash pickup is ongoing, because I some areas get trash pickup, every 3 times a week. Some gets 5 times a week, depending on where the community, where you're located. And I remember we had trash cans throughout Harlem, and now you can't even see a trash can. So that caused a lot of litter and trash throughout our community. So it's just basically me having a conversation on continually with the Department of Sanitation, the Commissioner of the Department of Sanitation, to make sure that our community stays clean and get regular trash pickups, and we actually get trash bins in our neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you for that. And some of their comment, it was trash bins, Of course, it was the rat situation,
Oh, right.
which is
Right.
overwhelming in Harlem. And then it was just trash on the streets, because I know that the businesses are responsible to keep their sidewalks clear and clean, but there are instances where there are vacant businesses and those sidewalks are not clear and clean. And just generally, the sidewalks on the streets of New York, especially Harlem, don't look like some of the downtown areas. So this
Right.
is a concern for our young people. So if you would address that part of it. Thank you.
Well, basically, like I said, it's working with the Department of Sanitation because they're the ones that basically deal with the trash pickup. So I think if I hold press conferences and rallies about it, that'll put a fire under them to make them want to do it. And again, the legislators that we currently have in office, we basically need to put a fire under them because we voted them in. We can be able to vote them out. So when I get in office, I know I'm going to have a lot to do because there's a lot that needs to be done. And that's just basically me working with my other colleagues in government to make sure these things get done. Department of Sanitation is number one on my list because we am also working with city agencies because the rat situation is definitely an issue. So that's going to be number one with the trash pickup.
Okay, thank you, candidate Shana Harmongoff. We're moving right along, trying to keep our time frame. Terri Wisdom, this is Harlem Network News, and this is our candidate debate forum for State Assembly District 70, trying to make sure that all of those who live in the district know who's running, know the positions and the strategic plans of all of those who are running, and even those that are outside of District 70 who are not voters. As we say, so goes Harlem, so goes the world. James Baldwin, Harlem is a mecca of Black America. And District 70 really sits in the center of that because that is where we are. We are Central Harlem. So thank you. Okay, moving right along, another critical question, and this is from the Black voters in District 70, police reform and public safety. What are your positions on police reform? How do you propose to improve the relationship between the law enforcement, stop and check, and harassing the Black community, which still continues? Thank you.
I actually think we need to have more community policing. So that way, it's the police, sometimes the police over polices. And so I think we need more community policing. I attend all of the police precinct meetings and I hear a lot of issues and concerns from our community regarding over policing. So basically the police I would basically start with having a town hall with the different police precincts in the area in my district and with the community and seeing the issues and concerns because oftentimes the community doesn't feel heard by the police and the police doesn't feel that the community is basically working together with them. So it's basically hearing both sides so each other can try to work together. But I really think that we need more community policing. I also think we need mental health counselors and psychotherapists handling cases that they're trained and qualified to do on the streets. Just like you see every police officer on every corner, you should see a mental health counselor, social worker, or like psychotherapists handling the cases that they're trained to do. Because we have a mental health crisis and a drug epidemic going on in Harlem. So that's really the number one issue that we should be focused on. And we also need the mental health counselors to be first responders on the scene when situations call for it with police officers.
Okay, thank you for that, because we know that there's been a lot of attention about the stop and check, but the reality is that we're still seeing that here in Harlem. We just, Shana, I don't know if you just, we just lost you. We just lost Shana Harmongoff. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to get back in, but we have had a robust conversation about questions that our community actually had. We just got through the question about policing. I'm going to see if we're able to get Shana to get back in. We had a few other questions that we wanted to be able to ask Shana. And the next question that we had really was a very vital question. And it's a new question, and it's a question that came up. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll go to not the vital question that came up as of yesterday, but I'll ask one of the other questions. And that question really had to do with Shana, basically what separates Shana Harmongoff from the other candidates. And I think that pretty much from what Shana said, she was definitely going to really be more hands-on or be hands-on. And she spoke about holding legislators accountable. So I think that is very, very, very critical and very important. I'm Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And it's been a very robust conversation. And we're very grateful that we have been able to bring these candidates to you. Harlem Network News, as you know, is a media platform, and we are the voice and the drumbeat of Harlem. And one of the concerns that has happened here is that a lot of media, Black media, really has been chipped away at. The Amsterdam News is doing their best to stand strong, but a lot of our programming, and this has to do with finance, economic funding, so that there is media. From a media standpoint, I learned early on in journalism school that is the media the message, or is the message the media? And that's a very key question, especially in the world that we live in. And, you know, our representatives, we're not seeing the debates on mainstream television. We're not seeing that. And we know that local media, local elections are just as important as the big elections, like the presidential elections, the congressmen, the senators. Those are all undercut by that. So that's why Harlem Network News is really knowing that it's very vital that we bring this news and information to you. I'm not sure if candidate Shana Harmongoff is going to be able to get back in. There was some technical difficulties, but we are very grateful for the time that she was able to come in. As I stated, we had invited Jordan Wright to join us as well, the other candidate, because we wanted Harlem to hear from all the candidates and hear the views of the candidates on these very, very vital topics. It's important, you know, in a lot of instances, because there isn't media coverage. People really don't know what's going on. And we are very grateful that we had questions from the Black voters of the 70th district, because they felt it was important to come out. They feel disenfranchised. As you know, we have an asylum seekers issue in New York City, which is a melting pot. However, we really have not had the finances to support the asylum seekers as they need to be supported. And we also are very concerned because this is impacting our education system which is already stretched. And now with the asylum seekers and, a lot of the students not speaking the English language, there's a need to support them. And that need takes away from the already stretched system, already young people who are struggling to learn. So this is very critical. And there are instances where there are people that are down at the Roosevelt Hotel who are being shipped up here to Harlem and put into these public schools in an already strapped thing. But I'm not sure, I'm Terri Wisdom, this is Harlem Network News, and I'm not sure if candidate Shana Harmongoff is going to be able to get back in. But one of the key questions that we wanted to ask, and this is for all the candidates, and it was based on something that was raised last night where we got infused with more questions. And that is, and I'm gonna just read directly from what one of our voters, Black voters, has put in. Okay, and basically, that voter shared with us. What about? Oh, great! Just at the right moment and at the right time. Shana Harmongoff is coming back in.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
There I am. My phone
That's
died.
okay.
I
That's
was in the
okay.
campaign office and I didn't
Okay.
have my charger, so
Oh, okay.
I
Oh.
have to do it in my car.
Okay. That's okay.
Okay.
It basically shows, and I think I'm getting a little bit of an echo. You may have up
Okay.
audios. I'm not sure. Just like when you call into the radio, let's take the radio down. And
Okay.
let me make sure that it's not me. That's okay. Let's see. One second. I think the reverberation came. You came on. Okay. So we're getting a little bit of echo, but I'm going to continue. The question that we were asking. Do you have up another device? Shana?
No, I'm in my car. Just
Okay.
right.
Okay.
I was out in the communities the day before
Okay.
the election. So
I got you.
yes.
It's okay. So let me just see what's going on. I can lose this reverberation.
Maybe I should call back in.
No. It's okay.
No.
It's
Okay.
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 You have time. I'm the one who's echoing. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't hear echo.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna.
Okay.
So that we had, and this came up from last night, and we had some raising of an issue regarding the campaign finance. And one of the candidates last night, and they didn't say who, but they felt that some of the campaign are being financed by real estate people, by the APEC, and they were concerned about, but they didn't say, which is appropriate. But that made one of our people come up with the question about campaign financing. It's a critical issue in the 70th district of New York City, including Black voters, several significant representation and influence. Campaign finance can significantly influence candidates are able
able
and be competitive.
competitive.
Strong financial backing
Financial
often correlate
correlate
with electoral success
success
due to the ability to
the ability to
advertise.
advertise.
So what are your thoughts on
what are your thoughts on
Well, I first want to start off by saying that my campaign does not take any money from Apex, any real estate, none of that. We don't, or any PAC money. We don't take any money of that sort. I do get money from grassroots. My campaign gets money from the community, grassroots, from unions. But that is pretty much all that we get money from. So we don't get any money from real estate, for real estate revenue, none of those type things. So I
Okay,
will say that.
okay, but what is your position on that? Do you feel that those kinds of things can impact the way that it is able to run, and also how they are interacting in the legislation? That's really the crux of this person's question. And they wrote that in last night. I don't know what isn't, but it's about truth to power.
Right. So I think when a candidate takes money from those type of things, and like the revenue, real estate, APAC, I think now you owe them something. I again want to reiterate, my campaign does not take any money from those. We don't take any money from revenue, real estate, none of that. But I think that once a candidate does, now that you now have to, it's kind of like they have influence over you on what legislation that they want to be pushed forward, because now they've funded your campaign. So again, there has to be some stronger laws put in place, and it also requires integrity from our candidates too. But again, my campaign does not get any money from those organizations and those people.
Thank you for sharing that, because this voter who is Black, is very concerned about it. Felt that a prime example of this kind of thing is how the Jamal attack. And so we just don't want, we wanted to get an expression on that. Do you feel that legislation could stop this kind of thing, to stop it, particularly at the local level?
I mean, I'm definitely going to be pushing for it. I don't think that real estate developers and the real estate board should have any impact, because one, it's hard for a candidate to run for office anyway. And when a candidate gets money from that, other candidates running against someone who is getting support from like revenue and all that, other candidates are getting, because my campaign is grassroots. We're getting it straight from the community. So I think there should be some legislation put in place on who actually can donate towards our campaigns. But again, my campaign really, we take money from unions and we take money from the community, grassroots, very grassroots.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering that. Like I said, we pretty much are boots on the ground. And those questions came up last night. What they heard. So, this is breaking. And I haven't done the whole fact check of who's taking what, but we know that it certainly. And even the issue is really affecting nationally in terms of different stances for Israel, and different killing of genocide that's going on last night. Okay. So on a lighter note, it's not a light note, economics. What about tourism in Harlem?
Harlem.
That was question. Just feeling that Harlem
is
second
second to
Times Square
Times
when
Square
it comes
when
to
it comes to
tourism.
tourism.
You're not getting
You're not getting
the
the
awards here.
awards.
How would you address?
How would you address that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Repeat it again. You kind of echoed. Now you're starting to echo. So just repeat it one more time for me. One more
Okay.
time.
All right. Harlem is second,
Okay.
to Times Square when it comes to tourism.
Okay.
Comes to tourism.
And how can
we
improve
improve
economically
economically?
because that's not happening,
not happening,
and that's a gold mine.
and that's a
for
gold
us.
mine for us.
Well, I would work with organizations like and businesses like the Harlem Chamber of Commerce. I know that they've done a lot of work in the Harlem community to try to make sure that Harlem stays at the forefront, and that when tourist people come here, that we get exposure, but we need to do more. So it's basically working with organizations like the Harlem Chamber of Commerce to make sure that Harlem is at the forefront, and we are pushed just like Times Square is, but we're pushed even more because we're historic, right? So yeah.
Okay,
that I feel
a very valid
question
because a lot of money that could really make changes in the community. The community people are getting. So that's a concern. Okay. So last question. Thank you for being a warrior and coming back in and making sure that people know who you are and whose you are. What about reparation? That has definitely been on the table in the state legislation. What is your position on reparation?
I do think we need reparations, mainly cash reparations. I know that the governor had set for a committee to be put in place, and that's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, we do know that we do need reparations, and it should be cash.
Okay. And
that's as simplest as I'm going to put it.
Okay. It needs to be cash.
Absolutely.
And every news standpoint, every aspect of our community could use reparations money. The people individually,
absolutely,
schools, the house,
absolutely.
Yeah, thank
you. So not just like you said, not just individuals, but it's like you said, your organizations, your nonprofits. We need reparations in cash.
Okay. Thank you for that. And
what
because there's a lot of legislation on the but it doesn't get any because it doesn't have peace. How would you combat that?
Okay, repeat it one more time.
Okay. All right. As a state assembly
okay,
you can create legislation,
mm-hmm.
and you've gotta get people to support your legislation. And the legislation have some teeth. And it doesn't appear that that's really been. So how would you elephant in the room?
So it's basically about networking. In order for you can have a good piece of legislation, but if your colleagues are not on board, then nothing will get passed. So it's basically having a strong networking with your colleagues in government, and making sure that they're on board to get it passed and that it's signed into law. And also, not only that, if you have legislation that you want to push, have your community. I definitely want to have my community people helping me stand in Albany, pushing other legislators to make sure the legislation that I want pushed in for our community actually gets passed into law. So sometimes not just myself, I'm standing with my colleagues and trying to get them to sign on to a bill, but having my community support me in that effort, reaching out to other legislators in government, making sure that we get laws created and passed and voted on. Because the whole role of a state legislator is to create, make, and vote on laws so that way the governor signs them into law.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, thank
We're
you.
gonna
We're
wrap
gonna
up
wrap
because
up
I know you've got a
I
big day
know you've
tomorrow.
got a big day
Um,
tomorrow.
Polls open at 6
Polls
a.m.
open at 6
We
a.m.
want to make
Right.
sure that
We want to make
folks come
sure
out and
that folks
vote
come out and
because
vote because
voting is
voting
another
is
issue on New
another
York
issue
City.
on New York City.
Though we're quote,
Though we're quote,
a free state,
a free state,
we have some of the
we have
lowest
some of the
voting
lowest
registration in the country,
registration in the country,
and that's something
and that's something that
we have to work on.
have to work on.
So we have identified
So we have identified a lot of the problems.
mental health is an issue.
Mental health is an issue.
Having
Having
more drug treatment centers and
treatment centers and
any place in the whole city.
in the whole city.
Staten Island, we have
Staten Island, we have
7, and we got about 50%.
we got about 50%.
So that's something else.
that's
that
something
has to be
else
stressed,
that has
as well as
to be stressed, as well as
legal cannabis.
legal
But
cannabis.
there are many issues.
Issues.
But let's move forward.
Let's
So please give your statement, candidate Shana Harmongoff, and let us know what aside from the other candidates that are running. What makes you running? What makes a question from a young person?
Well, one of the things that I mentioned earlier that sets me aside is that I'm the only candidate who's worked in state government for a previous state senate of Harlem, which encompassed all of the 70th Assembly District. So that's a strong advantage. And so all the candidates might say what they want to do, but until you've been in the seat with a legislator in that state government, you don't really know what you can or cannot do. So that's the advantage that I have, is I've already been in the seat with a former state senator. And again, state assembly and state senate is still a state role. So that's the advantage I have. I also want to leave with people that it is election time tomorrow. The polls open at 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm asking for everyone's vote. I am Shana Harmongoff, candidate for New York State Assembly. Biggest platform again is mental health, housing the homeless, protecting our seniors and small businesses. I don't just talk the talk, I actually walk the walk. This is my 3rd time running. And when I ran 2 years ago and lost, the very next day I was handing out food to the homeless and staying out in the community to where people were saying, Sean, are you still running for elected office? Because we still see you out there. But I didn't want to be that candidate who people said, we only see you when it's election time. And so I want the people to stand up and show up for me at the polls tomorrow. Don't meet me there, beat me there at 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm Shana Harmongoff again, candidate for New York State Assembly. Thank you so much, Ms. Terri, for having me.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And Harlem Network News, we are on the front line. We wanted to assure that everyone is informed, engaged, and called to action. We want to see all of Harlem come out, and we definitely made our effort to have all the candidates, because we want to do balanced journalism here at Harlem Network News. And it's unfortunate that Jordan Wright was not able to come, but he was invited. And he is on the ballot. So everybody, he was on Harlem Network News individually. So you can look back at that. That's on our YouTube to get a little bit more insight. But we want everyone to be able to be an educated, be an informed voter. It's critical. And of course, you can go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. This is live on Facebook. But our candidate series part 1 and 2 will be up on our YouTube later this afternoon or evening. And please support us. Go to harlemnetwork.org, make donations if you have stories that you want to share, news that's out of press, we definitely will do our best to cover, of course, with more funding, and as you said, getting special whatever really be get more funding, that Harlem Network is doing more of this, because if we're doing this, imagine what we can do. What we keeping that vision, we're keeping hope alive. We know that it takes a village, and you can email us at gmail.com 646-261-5397, and you can sell in cash. And we thank you, and for whatever, never Marcus Messiah Garvey. Let's go Harlem. Let's get out. Let's show who we are. And thank you, Shana Harmon, for being brave
Thank
and
you.
doing the debate. Just one person. Take care. And blessings.
Thank you so much.
And may the best candidate who can represent Harlem and really get the job done. And the other candidates that don't win, will you still continue to work and not just kind of trying to be elected. Continue to do the work, help us
Absolutely.
rally around whoever we have to work collectively. Thank you. I'm
Great.
Terry. And good night.